In this video, I'm going to show you how if you become clearer about your tomorrow, you will be happier in your today. Let's go. Hey everyone, I'm Richard. Thank you so much for joining us in our video today. I really hope you find it helpful. I read an interesting quote by someone called Thomas Carlyle, and this is what it said. A person with clear purpose will make progress on even the roughest road. A person with no purpose will make no progress on even the smoothest road. I think for a lot of us, we spend a huge amount of our time living in ambiguity. It's not that we don't want to know where we're going, and especially as leaders and as people who want to live with intentionality, it's just that the ambiguity gives us certain freedoms that clarity doesn't. I think one of the things ambiguity lets us do, it lets us lie to ourselves, and that could be hard to hear, but the more ambiguous that we are about our futures, the more we can pretend that what we're doing right now is actually driving us towards them. I know that this is true for me. There are often times in what I do, as I'm sure in what you do, where I'll pretend like I'm making big moves and I'll speak about things more than they are, or I'll build them up to be more than they should be built up to be. And it's simply because I'm not being clear enough about my tomorrow. And so I end up pretending like those things I'm doing in my today really are moving me towards my tomorrow. The second thing that I think ambiguity also lets us do, it lets us abscond from taking responsibility for our lives. A lot of times ambiguity allows us to either blame external forces or other people rather than going, it's all about me. Once we have clarity in our lives about what we're doing and the tomorrow that we're trying to get to, it's really tricky for us to blame other people. All that we end up being able to do is blame ourselves, because ultimately we are responsible for our lives and the journeys that we go on to. But it's my hunch that if you're watching this video and checking out this channel, you do want to live with intentionality. And one of the best ways for us to do that is to really live lives of clarity. Steve Maraboli says it's a lack of clarity that creates chaos and frustration. These emotions are poison to any living goal. There are a few things that clarity really helps us begin to do in our lives. Clarity sets you up to move. When we're clear about where we're going, about our tomorrow, about what we're trying to achieve, it allows us to build an active plan that helps us to move forward. Without the clarity, there isn't anywhere to move towards. The minute we get clear about things, it helps us start to move towards the future that we desire and want. Clarity sets you up to improve. Once we're clear about the future we're moving towards, we can begin to evaluate our today in light of our tomorrow. When we know the tomorrow that we're going after and what we're trying to build, then you and I can have a look at our today and we can begin to ask the kind of questions that need to be asked. Is what I did today helping me to get to the tomorrow that I have in mind? That level of intentionality can only come with clarity, because clarity really helps us to improve. Clarity sets you up to win. When I clearly can define my tomorrow, I'm set up to be able to get there. Clarity sets me up for the win. I still have to do things, I still have to make plans, I still have to strategize, I still have to live with intentionality. But clarity means that I know where I'm going and that I can get there and that I can win. Erwin McManus says, there are few things more powerful than a life lived with passionate clarity. When we live our lives with passionate clarity, it becomes a powerful force that takes us to the tomorrow that we desire. In 1920, there was a man called Ivy Lee. And Ivy Lee was known for helping people to get organized and focused. A businessman called Charles Schwab approached him because Charles Schwab was noticing across his business there was a lack of productivity beginning to work itself out. He was waiting for Ivy Lee to give him some kind of big strategic plan. What Ivy Lee gave him was really simple. Instead of asking for money, what Ivy Lee said to him, he said, don't worry about paying me now. What I'd rather want you to do is go and put this plan into action, and after you've put it into action, pay me then what you think it's worth to you. Charles Schwab went away and took Ivy Lee's action plan and put it into practice. And 6 months later, he came back to Ivy Lee with a check for $25,000. Now, $25,000 might not sound like a huge amount today, but in 1920, it would be the equivalent as Charles Schwab writing a check out for just under $500,000 to give to Ivy Lee. So wouldn't you love to know what the strategy was that Ivy Lee gave to Charles Schwab? Here it was. the end of every night, sit down and write the 6 most important things you need to do tomorrow to get you to the desired future that you have. What are the 6 most important things you need to achieve tomorrow to take you to the future that you're moving towards? Once you've got your 6 things, when tomorrow comes, start with number 1. Achieve number 1 before you move on to number 2. And once you've achieved the 2nd, then go to the 3rd. And once you've achieved the 3rd, go to the 4th, and so on. And by simply doing that, you know that the 6 most important things you need to do tomorrow to take you to the future and outcome that you're working towards, you'll be able to do. It's such a simple strategy, but it all rests on one thing: having clarity about the tomorrow, knowing the future you're driving towards. And if we can get clarity about our tomorrow, 3 things begin to happen inside of our lives. Clarity produces accountability. Clarity will help you build accountability. The clearer you are about your tomorrow, the more you will know whether or not you're getting there. Clarity produces improvement. When you are clear about your tomorrow, you'll be able to get better today so that you can reach the tomorrow that you're intentionally living for. Clarity produces fulfillment. The clearer you are about the tomorrow that you're building towards and that you're going after, the more fulfilled you'll feel every day knowing that you have taken active steps helping you move towards your tomorrow. So how do we get clarity in our lives? And as people who are living with intentionality and as leaders, how do we build clarity into everything we're doing? I think that there are 3 steps we can follow to help us do this. Build your ability to be honest. We have to be able to define reality as it is right now. We have to be able to understand what's going on and what we're doing right now, and being able to be honest enough to answer the question, is what I'm doing, is how I'm living, are my habits, is how I'm progressing, really moving me towards the tomorrow that I desire, the intentional tomorrow that I want to get to. Build your ability to be curious. We need to become question askers. A lot of leaders that I spend time with and speak to don't ask enough questions. The more questions we ask, the more answers we find and the more knowledge we have and the better we become. To gain more clarity, we need to begin to ask more questions about our today. What are we doing? How are we living? What can we do better? What can we change? What should we emulate? What should we use? Who's doing things same to us? There are so many questions that we need to ask, and we need to begin to build this ability to be curious about these things, and not just to hope that we'll stumble upon the right answers. Build your ability to be active. The more you do, the more you discover. We need to keep trying things, keep experimenting, keep innovating, keep doing new things, and then asking all of the questions we need to around them. I think if we could put these 3 habits into our arsenal and begin to use them in how we live our lives and even how we lead, we would be surprised at how quickly we begin to move towards the future that we want to build and have that intentionality in our lives that we find truly satisfying. How clear are you about your tomorrow? The clearer you are about your tomorrow, the happier you will be in your today. I hope you find this helpful. If you have, why not subscribe to the channel? Once a week we're going to be putting out videos that are like this, just helpful insights for you to do. It's been great spending the last couple of minutes with you. I hope you have a great rest of the week.